Yvonne, it's a good time as well because, as you know, this week President Trump has been inaugurated. Have you followed that, and what are your thoughts about what he's been saying just previously, prior to the inauguration, and also since that as well? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's very difficult to follow President Trump because you don't know whether to go on to the X platform where he sends out tweets every half an hour and on so many different subjects that it's very difficult to follow him because he's not the most focused person in the world. He's causing havoc in his own country with his domestic policies with regards immigrants. A lot of people think that that's his policy is very cruel, and that quite a few people who thought they had a visa and a flight to go to America have just found out today that they don't, and
Oh
that
wow,
they're not welcome
been
in the
cancelled.
country. I would say to those people, you've dodged a bullet, you've had a lucky escape, but obviously that won't console them because some will have sold their homes, their properties, just everything to start a new life in America. And suddenly the dream has been taken away. And what they've got now is a nightmare. And he's anticipating trouble, otherwise he wouldn't have sent 1,500 troops down to the Mexican border. So he's started a fire in his own backyard. And talking of fires, the California fires are still blazing away and new outbreaks regularly. And of course, we're finding out that the Americans haven't got the money to put out these fires, but as we know, they've got plenty of money to start fires overseas
Yes.
in Gaza and the West Bank by supplying bombs and other weapons to Israel. So I wouldn't say it's an auspicious start, but he's probably more emboldened now than ever before. This is his last term. He doesn't have to try and court popular opinion for a second term because there is no second term. So in many ways, I've called him before the most dangerous man in the world. In many ways, he's more dangerous now than ever. But what will interest you, and what I have heard, is that he is very, very keen to meet the Supreme Leader. Now, this is interesting. Donald Trump is impressed by power and influence. And I think this is one of the primary reasons that he wants to meet the Supreme Leader. I wouldn't dream of telling Iran how to react to this, but this is what I was told, that, Kim Jong-il, I think it was a social pariah until Trump went over and had this spectacular meeting that none of his diplomats had been able to arrange. And so this is the strange thing about Trump. He's a maverick, and where a lot of the hawkish advisors around him will be parroting the views of Israel that Iran should be put under the cosh, we might all get a pleasant surprise. It's just hard to gauge, really. It's like trying to nail jelly to the wall.
It is so true. Exactly. With Biden, at least we knew what to expect. Unfortunately, it was never anything good. With Trump, it's always all up in the air. I was actually joking with someone previously, like maybe a month or two ago, that imagine Trump getting the photo opportunity, a photo shoot with Ayatollah Khamenei. Yeah, I can imagine like he would actually he would die for that. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. Also, the way he's come out, all guns blazing, all these executive orders coming from left, right, and center. All in addition, he seems to be going further than he was before. So before he was talking about um, stopping immigration, but now he's talking about removing illegal immigrants who are
Sorry, you're having to compete with my little dog who's got a very loud voice for.
very loud voice. No, it's nice actually. I always like these pet voices in the background.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so now because he seems to be first of all going further than he was talking about before. He's now talking about removing illegal immigrants who I don't know what kind of effect that's going to have on the economy in the USA, but also just the number of decrees that he's issuing is hard to keep up with. So is in some ways there's going to be a lot of things slipping through that we haven't yet been able to take into account.
Let me just put the dog outside.
I think he's got something to say.
Sorry
Uh,
about that. The
no problem.
economy is going to be an interesting issue because, of course, the G7 is finding itself in competition with BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa collective. And already their GDP has overtaken
Yes.
the G7, which is a threat to the American dollar. And we all know that any threat to the American dollar makes the Americans nervous. But I think that his style, Trump's style, is to cajole and bully and pick off weaker countries. But I don't think he'll get away with it this time because I think that China will financially support some of the weaker countries so that they remain steadfast in the face of all this bullying and cajoling. Some of the trade tariffs are ridiculous, 60% for the importing anything from.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Let me just take a moment to introduce our sponsors for today. This episode is kindly being sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. WLC is a complete A to Z Amazon account management service. So if you're looking to start an e-commerce business or you already have a business that you want to take to the next level, then get in touch and WLC will be able to help. Just for transparency purposes, let me also mention that WLC is a company that I personally created and am a director of. So when you get in touch with WLC, you will be speaking with directly myself or my team, and we very much look forward to speaking with you to see how we can serve your needs. Thank you. And with that said, let's get back to the episode.
China.
I think you're absolutely right. The world is now a different place than it was when Trump was in the office the first time around. And I think he's going to quickly realize that it was quite funny. Did you see he was even talking about putting sanctions, tariffs on Spain, thinking Spain is part of BRICS as well?
Yes, when he lashes out, he has a sort of scattergun policy, and wholly innocents are just caught up in the crossfire. I mean, look at the people of Greenland,
Yes.
sitting, minding their own business, and suddenly they're right at the heart of America's national security. And Trump saying, I'm going to buy Greenland, I want Greenland, and I want the Panama Canal. The thing is with Trump, he's a very accomplished con man. And he will have everybody looking at this area, this fire that he started. And while everybody's looking in this direction, he's then up to something else in a wholly different area. And so Greenland, I think, is a bit of a red herring. I think that's there to divert our attention. But you're right, the world is a different place. And the two people who don't realize it or just haven't read the room is Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, who has
Yes.
already broken the Gaza ceasefire. And I have a feeling that the bromance between those two won't last very long. In fact, I think that there could be a serious fallout coming down the pipeline there.
I think you're right. I don't think Donald Trump has a lot of respect for Netanyahu to begin with. I mean, did you see, I think it was Jeffrey Sachs who had this video where he was swearing at Netanyahu, and Donald Trump tweeted that video. And that was quite telling at the time that it was kind of sending a subtle message. But in the past, he has said some unsavory things about Netanyahu, including at the time when they assassinated Qasem Soleimani. General Trump was saying that Netanyahu chickened out at the time. So it's interesting. I mean, how do you see this ceasefire that he has kind of pushed through? On one hand, I want to kind of give him credit for that, but on the other hand, I'm just so fearful of what the quid pro quo was that. What is the deal behind that, and what is Israel's next move going to be?
Well, I think Trump is all about legacy now.
Mhm.
And he wants to make history. He wants to be more than a footnote in history. And he humiliated the Biden administration when his incoming administration got involved in the Gaza peace talks. And he sent one of his own people out to negotiate directly with Netanyahu. They weren't expecting that at all. And to be quite blunt, I can't remember the name now of the person he sent out, but he's an Israeli. And
Yeah, Steve something, I can't remember the surname. Yeah.
And he is somebody else who has appalling manners, and he went into Tel Aviv, kicked open a few doors, demanded to see Netanyahu. And of course, this was on Friday, their holy day, where they're not supposed to be conducting any business. But as we know, this is Netanyahu is about as religious as a fish. He's just, there's nothing there. And he did meet Trump's man, and I think he was bristling and being quite aggressive when Trump's man pointed out, when Trump was president the first time round, he gave you an embassy in Jerusalem. He gave you Jerusalem. He went to the Golan Heights and he gave you that, lots of things that you've got to be grateful for, and you don't want to make him angry. And so Netanyahu backed down, and that was the push that they needed to get this ceasefire through. And of course, Biden was really annoyed and rattled when one of the journalists in the White House said, was this deal yours or was it Donald Trump's? So,
Wow.
but it was obvious, Donald Trump, he knows people's weak spots, and he presses buttons that he knows that he'll get a reaction, and he shouldn't be underestimated. I know that he causes a lot of jollity and mirth, and people think he's a bit of a jester, but he's not.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I was just saying that, like, so in his previous term, there was a lot. Obviously, it was very divisive, and the people who love him just loved him regardless of what he says, and the people who don't like him didn't want to take him seriously at all. And there's someone assessed Trump, and I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that the thing with Trump is that the people who love him, they don't take him literally, but they take him seriously, and the people who hate him, they take him literally but not seriously. But I think we need to actually take him literally and seriously this time around, because I think he's come clearly with like an intent of making big changes very quickly.
Well, he does change his mind very quickly as well, which is why I said it's hard to know what's
Yeah,
going on in the White House unless you monitor the X platform. And it must be a nightmare for the press corps,
yeah,
because they're chasing their tails all day as he flips and flops around with new policies. So very interesting times, and of course it must be concerning for people in Tehran as well.
yeah,
The country has such a long and a history going back thousands and thousands of years, steeped in intellectualism and culture, and to have to prepare for anything on a president who can change his mind at the turn of
mm,
a card must be extremely
yeah,
difficult. And with the best will in the world, he isn't the most cultured president in the White House.
yeah. How do you see the relationship between him and Elon Musk developing? Because I think they're going to be on a um, collision course for two reasons. One is obviously, as Trump puts more and more tariffs on countries, is going to affect Musk's business. But on the other hand, as well, I think Musk is someone who has maybe even a bigger ego than Trump himself, and even more money to back that up. And Trump is someone who doesn't take, who, regardless of all his faults, he is not someone who wants to be number two to anyone. So I wonder how that's
Well,
going to go.
he stuffed his inner circle with billionaires.
Mm,
This is a government for the rich,
mm,
that will benefit the rich, that is run by the rich. And yet he still manages to maintain this populism among ordinary people.
yeah,
And he can put on a baseball cap and be one of us, one of the working classes, or it's quite an astonishing trick that he does. That he's down there with the people, with the working classes. Let's make America great again. And then the next minute, he's taking advice from a load of very, very wealthy egomaniacs like
yeah,
Elon Musk. These are billionaires who are going to get richer.
yeah,
And we can all see it. But this legion of voters